All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to get into the really surprising and honestly misunderstood story of plaque in your arteries. And believe me, it's way more interesting than you've probably been told. So let's just jump right in with a question that, well, it might just flip everything you thought you knew about heart health completely upside down. It sounds totally backward, I know, but trust me on this. You're going to want to hear this out.
Yeah, this is what's known as the plaque paradox. And it's this really fascinating idea that explains why, weirdly enough, a higher score on a plaque test isn't always bad news. In fact, it could mean things are getting better.
Okay, so here's the deal. A test called a CAC scan, that's a coronary artery calcium test. It only sees calcified or hard plaque. So think about it. If your score goes up, it might not be what you think. It could actually mean your body is doing something amazing. It's turning that dangerous, soft, unstable plaque into a much more stable, hard form. So it's not that things are getting worse, your arteries are literally getting reinforced.
And to really wrap our heads around this, you gotta know that not all plaque is created equal. It's not just one thing. There are two totally different kinds. And one of them, well, it's the real villain in this story.
So at its core, what even is plaque? You can think of it as your body's own little repair crew. When there's some damage or inflammation inside an artery, your body rushes in with these three key ingredients, cholesterol, some protein, and calcium, to basically form an internal Band-Aid. It's trying to patch things up.
And here's where we see the two faces of plaque, side by side. You've got the soft plaque, that's the bad guy. It's unstable, it's dangerous, and it's tied to nasty stuff like oxidation. But then you have the hard plaque. This is that dense, stable patch we've been talking about, and it's much, much less of a threat. And that CAC test we talked about? Yeah, it really only picks up on the hard stuff, the patch.
And get this is what's so important. That really dangerous, unstable, soft plaque, the stuff that most standard tests can't even see, it's actually 4 times more common than the stable hard plaque. That's a huge deal. So that leads to a pretty obvious and pretty important question, right? If that standard CAC test is missing the biggest part of the threat, how on earth are you supposed to know your real risk? Well, let's get into the tests that can actually tell you the whole story.
And the plot thickens when we start talking about LDL cholesterol. Because it's not just about your total number. It turns out there are different types of LDL. You have the small, dense kind. Think of them like little BBs that can easily get into the artery wall and cause trouble. They're the ones that help create that dangerous soft plaque. Then you have the large, fluffy kind, more like beach balls. They just bounce off. It's really about the quality of your LDL, not just the quantity.
So how can you figure out which kind you have? Well, believe it or not, you can do a little detective work with your own blood test results. You just take your LDL number and divide it by your ApoB number. Now, ApoB is basically the protein that carries cholesterol around. If that final ratio is higher than 1.2, that's great news. It suggests you have more of those safer, big, fluffy LDL particles. And if you want to dig even deeper, there are some more advanced tests you can look into. There are specific blood markers, things like myeloperoxide and LPPL2, that directly measure inflammation in your arteries, helping you spot that soft plaque. And then there's something called a carotid ultrasound. It's a super simple, painless scan of the artery in your neck, and it is incredibly accurate at predicting your real cardiovascular risk.
All right, so we've identified the real villain, that sneaky soft plaque. So the big question is, what can we actually do about it? Well, let's talk about 5 key nutrients that are absolute game changers here.
First on our list is something called picogenol. It's a really potent antioxidant that comes from the bark of a specific pine tree in France.
Okay, so its main job, its superpower, really, is helping with that crucial conversion process we've been talking about. It helps your body turn that dangerous, unstable, soft plaque into stable, hard plaque. It's like a construction foreman, reinforcing the artery wall. And as a bonus, it helps stop new plaque from even starting. Next up, we've got a nutrient that's basically the perfect partner for pycnogenol.
You can think of Gotu Kola as the ultimate sidekick. It basically amplifies what pycnogenol does, making that whole plaque stabilizing process even more powerful. And just like its partner, it helps keep new plaque from forming.
All right, number 3 is a vitamin that plays one of the most important roles of all. It acts like a traffic cop for all the calcium in your body. This is vitamin K2, and its whole job is to stop calcium from building up in your blood vessels. It grabs that calcium and says, nope, you don't belong here, and directs it into your bones where it's actually needed. But here's a really critical detail.
The dosage is key. For this to work, you need to be thinking in milligrams, not micrograms. That's 1,000 times more, and it's way more than you'll find in a typical multivitamin, so you have to look for it specifically. Okay, our fourth plaque fighter is a really interesting one. It's an enzyme called nattokinase, and it comes from a traditional Japanese food made from fermented soybeans called natto.
And what's so cool about nattokinase is that studies show it can directly affect the artery wall itself, actually helping to reduce its thickness. And last but not least, our fifth key player is a B vitamin you've probably heard of, niacin. But, and this is a big but, the type of niacin you use is everything.
Now, niacin is famous for helping with cholesterol levels. But to get those benefits, you absolutely need the kind that causes that temporary flush, where your skin gets a little red and warm for a bit. There are non-flushing or sustained-release versions out there, but for this specific purpose, they just don't do the trick.
So those are the 5 heavy hitters. But beyond them, there's a whole support team of other nutrients that are fantastic for your arteries.
And you can really see that team approach here. You've got tocotrienols, a special form of vitamin E, and of course vitamin D to tackle inflammation. You have things like berberine and aged garlic for all-around heart support. And then you have essential minerals like magnesium and potassium that actually help keep stiff arteries more flexible. It all works together.
So if there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's this. Maybe the goal shouldn't be just to get rid of plaque. Maybe the smarter goal is to make the plaque you have stable. It's all about transforming that hidden, wobbly danger into a strong, reinforced patch, because that's what really makes your arteries safer,